All right, y'all. So final exam review. All right, remember this is a multiple choice test. So for number one, they want us to graph f of x equals 4 minus x squared. And I'm just going to graph it on my calculator, see what that graph looks like, and then you would have picked out the 4 pictures, the one that looks like our graph, okay? So I'm going to go to the calculator. All right, so I'm going to go to y equals, and I had 4 minus x squared. All right, y'all, I'm just going to hit graph to get the shape of this. So notice it's it's crossing at 4 on that x-axis because that's what that 4 is doing to it. So it's just an upside down parabola, crossing at 4 and coming back down, okay? So they're going to have 4 distinct pictures on that. And I'll show you. We would go with A because ours came up above, went over at 4 and came back down, okay? So for number one, all you're doing is graphing it and looking at the pictures. All right, number two, they're giving me a function f of c equals 9/5 c plus 32. So remember, that's the Fahrenheit temperature given the Celsius temperature. We're going to find the Fahrenheit. So they want to know, find the Fahrenheit temperature equivalent to negative 15C. And all we're going to do is put that negative 15 in for that C and see what we get for this. So we're actually finding F of that negative 15. That'll equal 9/5 times negative 15 plus 32. Now at this point, you can punch it right in the calculator like it looks. 9 divided by 5, parentheses, negative 15, close parentheses, plus 32. Okay? Now, I'm just going to do it by hand real quick. So if you treat the negative 15 like a fraction, this negative 15 and 5 will reduce to a negative 3. So now I got 9 times negative 3, which is negative 27, plus my 32. And then negative 27 plus 32 gives me 5. So they'll have an answer, 5 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 76, negative 22, and negative 49, okay? So just plug in your number and follow order of operations. All right, number 3, we're going to determine if the graph is a function. So y'all, the graphs they're giving me looks like a sideways parabola. So we've done enough functions, y'all. Is this a function? Yes or no? And I would
Yes.
really I would do the horizontal line test of that, remember? So remember, you're shooting these vertical lines down through here. And notice these vertical lines are intersecting it more than once. So if it intersects it more than once, Y'all better put a no on that. So no, and it's because vertical lines intersect the graph more than once. And y'all remember, functions cannot have choices for those y values, remember? So at this x value, I've got one y value, two y values. So remember, that violates the definition of a function. All right, number 4 wants us to solve, and it is a matrix. X plus y plus z equals 7. X minus y plus 2z equals 7. 5x plus y plus z equals 11. So I'm going to solve this using the matrix. So remember, on the matrix, we're just going to put in the numbers. So we would put in a 1, 1, 1, 7. 1x, 1y, 1z equals 7. Then I would have a 1, negative 1, 2, 7. 1x minus 1y plus 2z equals 7. And then I'll have a 5, 1, 1, 11. From a 5x, 1y, 1z equaled 11. Now, I'm going to go use the matrix on the calculator. Now remember, this is a 3 by 4 matrix because I got 3 rows and 4 columns, okay? So y'all, we're going to go share our calculator on this. So I'm going to get off the graphing by hitting second mode and quitting. So remember, the first thing I'm going to do is hit second x negative 1 to bring up the matrix. We're going to go to edit and hit enter. So y'all, mine's already got a 3 by 4 there. So I'm just going to come down, put in my numbers. I had 1 enter, 1 enter, 1 enter, and 7 enter. Second row, I had a 1 enter, negative 1 enter, 2 enter, and a 7 enter. My third row, I had a 5 enter, 1 enter, 1 enter, and 11 enter. Make sure you hit enter on every number. And then you're going to quit the screen by hitting second mode. Because now my matrix is in there, okay? So now we can do the math on it. So we're going to hit second x negative 1 again. We're going to arrow right and go to the math column and arrow down till you find RREF and hit enter. So now that you got RREF on there, you're going to go back second x negative 1 again. And since our matrix is in A, we're just going to hit enter because it's already highlighted on 1. And it brings it to the screen. So now the calculator will reduce this. And remember, the right column is my answers, X, Y, Z. So that means X is 1, Y is 2, and Z is 4. So y'all, you would bring down that answer as a 1, 2, 4. And remember, it's got to be in parentheses, okay? Now, they put them all in parentheses, so you don't have to worry about the parentheses. Remember, because it's a multiple choice test. All righty. So for 5, I'm going to bring my sheet over here. And y'all, let me zoom that in just a little bit on that graph. So So for this graph right here, they want us to find the domain. And notice, I wrote this right here. The x values are what we use for the domain. Now, since these got dots on them, we're going to use brackets. So what we need to know, where does the domain start? At what x value does this domain start? So y'all, I got my point here. I'm going to go straight up until I hit that x-axis. And it looks like it's starting at -1. And then we want to go until where the ending point is. So I bring that ending point down to the x-axis. And that looks like an x value of 4. And since it's got dots on them, they are included in the domain. That's why I'm using brackets. And y'all look up here at A, -1, 4. Okay. So just remember x values on that domain, okay? All right, I'm going to decrease my zoom just a little. All right, on number 6, they want to match the inequality with a graph. All right, y'all, so 4x plus 5y is greater than -5. All right, so I'm going to solve it first to see what I need to do for my graph here. So the first thing I'm going to solve this for y. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. So I get my 5y on the left side greater than. Remember, these are not like terms. So I'm just going to put -5 minus 4x. Or you can do -4x minus 5. Either way, okay? Now, we'll divide everybody by 5. So that cancels, and I got my y greater than. That's going to give me a -1 minus the 4/5 x. So at that point, if you want to go graph it, you can. I'm just going to pick up some points by hand. So one point I'm going to use is 0. So if I put a 0 in for the x, -4/5 times 0 is 0. And I got -1 minus 0, which is -1. So let me put a few points on here. So 0, -1 will be right here, crossing on the y-axis at -1. Now, since I got this fraction, my second x will be 5. Because if I put a 5 in for that x, that cancels with the denominator. And I'm left with -1 minus 4, which is -5. So over here, when my x is 5, my y value is -5. Now, remember, greater than, these kind of graphs, we're going to shade when we're done, and we got to figure out what kind of line do I want. Y'all, do I want this line to be solid, or would y'all make that dashed? And what I'm looking at is that greater than there. Since it does not have an equals under it, we need to make the line dashed. So my line is dashed going down through here. And it's greater than, so remember, greater than shades above the line. So it's going to shade all this above the line. And y'all look at these, you got to be careful. You got a dashed line here. You got a solid line here. Be very careful when you're picking them so that it matches your graph with the dotted line, okay? All righty. Uh-oh, 7's our other favorite one. This is the ladder. So a ladder resting on a wall. Top of the ladder touches the wall at a height of 15 feet. Find the length of the ladder if the length is 5 feet more than its distance from the wall. Okay, y'all, so let's see what we got here. I'm going to draw me a picture. There's my wall, and I've got my ladder leaning up against it. And it said the top of this ladder touches the wall at 15 feet. So I know this side on the right is 15 feet. Now they want me to find the length of the ladder if its length is 5 feet more than its distance from the wall. Well, here's the distance from the wall. We don't know what that is, so we're going to call that x. And then the ladder, being 5 feet more, will be x plus 5. So y'all look here, you got a 90-degree angle, so we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem to this. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So remember, the ladder will be your c. That is your hypotenuse. And then I'll let this be a and b. So we're going to fill in what we got. So a squared will be x squared plus my b, which will be 15 squared. That's going to equal c squared, which will be x plus 5 squared. So all we got to do now is solve this for the x. So I can't do nothing with the x squared yet. 15 squared, 15 times 15 is 225. Now this side, I'm going to FOIL that on the side, okay? Because remember, you got to write this twice and FOIL it when it's being squared like that. So y'all, you'll come in and do x times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 5 times x is 5x. Plus 5 times 5 is 25. And y'all, all we're going to do now is add the like terms so that this gives me an x squared plus 10x plus 25. That's now my right side. X squared plus 10x plus 25. Alrighty, so when you see x squareds, you really try to get the x squareds on the same side. But I'm going to subtract x squared from both sides to move that. And look what happens. The x squareds are canceling out on both sides. So that ends up being 225 equal to my 10x plus 25. So y'all, it's not quadratic no more because the x squared stuff canceled out. So we're just going to solve that for the x. So we're going to subtract 25 So I get 200 equals 10x. I'll then divide both sides by 10. So 20 divided by 10, 200 divided by 10 will leave me 20 equal to my x. Now, what you got to be careful on, that's not the answer. 20 is this distance from the wall. We want to know the ladder. We know the ladder is x plus 5. So that's going to be 20 plus 5, which makes my ladder 25 feet. Okay, so they're going to have 20 on there because they're going to know that y'all are going to forget to add that 5 to it, okay? So remember, once you got the x, add the other number to it, okay? All right, y'all, so questions on those 7. All right, so I'm about to get us into some domain stuff, okay? All right, y'all, so let me see here. Number 8 says, find the domain. Now, they're giving me f of x equals x minus 7 over x squared plus 3x. And they want it in interval notation, okay? So we'll start at negative infinity, we'll end at positive infinity, but we'll use the unions to cancel out numbers we don't want. All right, so it's a domain problem. You're going to take the bottom, set it equal to 0. So on this one, since both of these have an x, you're going to factor out the x, and that'll leave an x plus 3 in parentheses, all equal to 0. And then set both these factors equal to 0. So y'all look, anytime you factor out an x like a greatest common factor, it always gave us the answer of 0, okay? Now this one, I'm going to subtract 3, and I get x equals a negative 3. All right, so my domain has to be in order. So I'm going to go through negative 3 first. So I'm going to go from negative infinity to negative 3, union around that negative 3. From negative 3, we go to 0. We're going to union around 0. And from there, we're heading off to positive infinity. So remember, to kick out a number, you union around it, okay? Oh, so let's see. For this one, we're going to construct and simplify the difference quotient. Now remember, the difference quotient, they'll give you the formula, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. And y'all, the function they're giving us, f of x equals 2x squared plus 6x. So remember, these problems were sort of tricky because we have to find f of x plus h first. All right, so put an x plus h in for both of these x's. So you have 2 times x plus h squared plus 6 times x plus h. All right, so the first thing you would do is FOIL that on the side. But y'all, we know what this equals because we made notes of this that anytime you get an x plus h squared, that's going to equal x squared plus 2hx plus h squared. Now I'm bringing the rest of this down, because now on this next step, I'll distribute my 2 through the first parentheses and my 6 through the second one, so that I get a 2x squared plus 2 times 2 is 4hx. 2 times h squared is a 2h squared plus 6 times x plus 6 times h. All right, so if you remember, this is now f of x plus h. So we would take our 2x squared plus 4hx plus 2h squared plus 6x plus 6h, that's my x plus h, minus my f of x, which is 2x squared plus 6x, and that's all over h. All right, so the main thing you wanted to realize on these problems, everything in the second parentheses is going to cancel out. That negative 2x squared canceled with a 2x squared. And this is really a negative 6x. It's going to cancel with that 6x. So the h's are all that's left. So 4hx plus 2h squared plus 6h all over your h. And y'all, if you remember the last step, cancel h's, right? So you cancel that h out, you get a 4x plus, you had a 2h squared, you cancel one of them h's out, you still got an h left, so that's going to make a 2h. And then at the end, the 6h, that h cancels out, leaving a 6. So final answer, 4x plus 2h plus 6. Okay, so remember, all the f of x is always going to cancel out, okay? All that's going to be left are the stuff with the h's. All right, y'all, let me see. Number 10 is a graph. And on this one, they want us to graph g of x equals a square root 2x minus 6. So I'm going to go to my calculator. Go to y equals, and let me clear all this off. So remember, to get the radical, you hit second x squared down here. And then you put in your 2x minus 6. All right, now, you don't really have to zoom these ones. They got 4 distinct pictures on this. So we hit graph. Ours is going to the right. I'll show you on this one. So remember, ours is going uphill to the right on the 4 pictures. Well, this one started to the left. This one's a straight line. There's ours. It went to the right and goes uphill to the right. And then another one that's wrong, going the wrong direction, okay? So we would go with C on that one. Ours sort of went to the right like that, okay? All right, so I'm going to put this picture on here also. So let me zoom in just a little. Whoops, wrong way. And I'm wanting to zoom in on this graph right here. So this one says, Using the graph, determine any relative maxima and relative minima. Now they're giving me the 2 points. That little mountaintop on the left side is a maximum, and then that little valley on the right side is a minimum. So let's start with the maximum. I got a maximum of 1 at x equals 0. So far, I got B and D are the only choices I can make based on the maximum. Both of them have a maximum of 1 at x equals 0. So it's either going to be B or D. So I look at my minimum here. My minimum looks like a -3, and that's happening at the x value of 2. So B said there wasn't a minimum. D has my minimum of -3 at x equals 2. So on that one, we would pick D, okay? So look at the 2 points. Remember, the y value was the maximum and minimum, and then you got to figure out what the x value is they're happening at, okay? All right, 12 was describe the graph. They're giving us f of x equals a negative square root x plus 9. And then that's starting from the graph of y equals a square root of x. So the first thing we'll start with, what's that 9 doing? Well, that 9's either going left or right. So since that's positive, this one's going to go left. Remember, the parentheses are there when it's under a radical. We treat this like it's in parentheses. So that's going to make me go left since that's positive. And then this negative right here, y'all, back when we did these graphs, the negative there is going to reflect over x-axis. Okay, so when we know that, we're going to come in and pick the one that says move it 9 units to the left. So A, B, and D all have, well, nope, D has -9. That's wrong. We're just going to move 9 units to the left. So it's got to be A or B. And then that negative we said was going to reflect across the x-axis. So do not pick the y-axis on number 12 at all, okay? So left because it's positive, x-axis because of the negative. I would pick A on that one, okay? All right, y'all, 13. Find the zeros. They're giving us f of x equals x squared minus 9x plus 1. Now, unfortunately, to solve this one, you're going to have to use your quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So a will be 1. B will be the -9. C will be 1. All right, y'all, so let's plug it in and see what we get. I got negative times B, which is -9, plus or minus square root -9 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, and C, which is 1, all over 2 times my A, which was 1. And y'all, it's just a matter of simplifying now. A negative times a -9 makes that a +9 plus or minus under this radical, let's see what we got. -9 times -9 is 81. And y'all look here. -4 times 1 times 1. There's only one negative over there. That's going to stay negative. And then 4 times 1 is 4 all over 2. All right, so we're working the radical still. So bring down to 9. Plus or minus square root. 81 minus 4 is 77 all over 2. So at this point, I got to see if I can simplify that radical. But y'all remember the perfect squares? Of 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. Oh, what's left? 64, 81, 100, 121, 144. Well, that 77 is not going to divide by none of these perfect squares. So since it won't divide by none of the perfect squares and simplify, this is my final answer. Okay, so you just got to play with them. Get it down to that radical and see if you can simplify the radical any further. Now, I'm pretty sure since mine didn't simplify any further, y'all's probably won't simplify any further, okay? All right, y'all moving on. What's next? 14. Find the vertex. They're giving us f of x equals x squared minus 4x plus 5. So remember, the vertex formula was negative b over 2a, and then f of a negative b over 2a. So a is 1, b is -4, and c is 5. So I'm going to get the x value first by doing negative b over 2a. So that'll equal a negative times -4 for my b over 2 times the a, which is 1. So y'all, it's really important that you bring this negative over and then put in your -4, okay? All right, so let's see. Negative times negative makes a 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. So I know the x-coordinate is going to be a 2. So now I get my y value by finding f of that 2. So that'll be 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 5. So let's see. 2 squared is 4, right? Minus 4 times 2 is 8. And then plus my 5. All right, y'all, so let's see. That's going to give me -4. -4 plus 5 gives me a 1. So my vertex point will be an x value of 2 and a y value of 1. Now, what's funny on that, and look at these answers. I got an x value of 2. There's only one part that had a 2 for the x value, okay? So you can sort of eliminate on those sometimes. All right, find the zeros and multiplicity. All right, y'all, f of x equals -4x squared times x minus 9 times x plus 1 to the third. So the exponents are the multiplicities, and remember, since there's not an exponent outside of this second parentheses, What exponent would I put there? So what would y'all put there?
Is it a 1?
It's a 1. Good job. So y'all got to treat that like a 1, okay? Now, to get the actual zeros, we're going to set negative 4x equal to 0. We'll set x minus 9 equal to 0. And we'll set the x plus 1 equal to 0. So y'all solving the first one, I'm just going to divide by the negative 4. And y'all look at that. A single x still gives me a 0. Here I would add 9 and get x equals 9. And then the third one, I would what? Subtract 1 and get x equals negative 1. So looks like they're going in order from the numbers. So for negative 1, that 0 had a multiplicity of, well, y'all, the negative 1 came from this factor. So it's got a multiplicity of 3. Then my next 0 is 0. 0 has a multiplicity of 2. And then my last 0 is 9. And it had a multiplicity of, whoops, there's the one you told me to put a 1 on. Okay, so they listed 0 multiplicity, 0 multiplicity, and then the 0 multiplicity. All right, y'all, let me see what's happening next. Next, they just want to graph the function. So I'm going to show you a trick on the calculator though. So this is g of x equals negative x times x plus 2 squared times x minus 3 squared. So I'm actually just going to go to the calculator and graph it. And let me go to that calculator. Go to y equals and clear that one out. And I had negative x, parentheses, x plus 2. That one was squared. And then I had an x minus 3, and that one was squared. All right, so usually on this graph, you can sort of tell what's happening. So I'm just going to hit graph. Now, you see it's sort of jacked up in there looking? So what I'm going to do is set my window like they did theirs. I'm going to go to window. They go from negative 5 to 5 on the x's. So negative 5, I'm going to arrow down and go to 5. The y values, they go from negative 240 to positive 240. So if we set the window like they did, watch what happens to my graph. It's more distinguishable. Okay, so it's going downhill. And at that point, you can sort of tell which graph to pick, okay? All right, y'all, so get good on setting that window, member, for some of these. Now, to set the window back to a 10 by 10, I just hit zoom number 6, zoom standard, puts my graph back on a 10 by 10. All right, y'all, let's see. What's this? 17, it looks like. All right, 17, find the vertical asymptotes. Now this is just like finding a domain, member. So f of x equals x minus 1 over x squared plus 3x. So remember, we don't care about the top. We're going to take the bottom, set it equal to 0. You're going to solve that. And oh, this one's got x's in both of these. So to solve this, you would factor out an x like I did a while ago on that problem. And then an x plus 3 in parentheses, okay? Set both these equal to 0. So that one's done. So 0 is one asymptote. And then here, subtract 3. And you get x equals -3. And that's my asymptotes. X equals 0, comma, x equals -3. Okay? Just remember, you got an x squared there. So you got to get 2 vertical asymptotes, okay? All right, find the requested value. All right, y'all, watch this. F of x equals 2x minus 6. G of x equals 4x squared plus 3x plus 5. They want us to find f compose g of 8. All righty, so that means on this problem, we put the 8 into the g first. So first, we need to find g of 8. Well, g of 8 is, I got to put an 8 in for both of these x's. So I got 4 times 8 squared plus 3 times 8 plus 5. All right, that looks like a calculator type problem. So I'm going to go to my calculator and let it figure out what that equals. So I'm going to hit second quit, clear that. All righty, y'all. So I had a 4 times 8 squared plus 3 times 8 plus 5. Well, I'm expecting that to be a fairly big number. Let's see. So, whoa, that equals 285. All righty, so all we did at this point, we've got g of 8. Now, we got to put this number into the f. So we're finding f of 285. Whoa, that's going to be big too. So now I put the 285 into the f function for its x. So I got 2 times 285 minus 6. All right, y'all, so let me go back to my calculator and see what it says. So I had 2 times 285, those parentheses, minus 6. All right, y'all, so we hit enter, we get 564. So for their answers, they had 75, 564, 116, and 435. So we're going to pick the one that's got our 564, okay? So this one says find the indicated composition. But I'll tell you the truth. It's the same thing as this problem 18, but they're not giving me a number this time. So watch this. F of x equals 4x squared plus 3x plus 8. G of x equals 3x minus 7. They want us to find G compose F of x. So no number this time. So remember, when we don't have a number, we take the f function. We're going to put the f function into the g. Okay? So watch this. G compose f of x. So we're going to put this f function into the x for the g. So we'll have 3 times x, which is 4x squared, plus 3x plus 8, and then minus 7. Don't forget to come back and get that minus 7, okay? All right, so get rid of the parentheses. 3 times 4 is 12x squared. 3 times 3 is 9x. 3 times 8 is 24. And then I got that minus 7. And I'll tell you what, the last thing we could do is the like terms. So we end up with a 12x squared plus 9x plus 17. And that would be our final answer. Okay, y'all, so take your big f of x and put it into the x for your g, okay? I'll tell you what makes you happy is when you look on them answer blanks and you see these kind of answers there, okay? All right, y'all, number 20. Let me see on so number 20 here says determine if 1-to-1 if 1-to-1 find the inverse. So let me say this. They are all 1-to-1. Do not answer not 1-to-1. If you answer not 1-to-1, you will definitely miss it. It is definitely going to be 1-to-1. And it's going to look like mine. I got a 6x to the third minus 3. So you're going to have a cube just like me, and it will be 1-to-1. So we will find our inverse by replacing the f of x with a y. So do y'all remember what I got to do next? Because remember, we're finding the inverse. That's this one that looks like that. Remember, that's your inverse notation. So what did I do after I made the f of x into a y?
Flip the X and Y.
So we're going to get x equals 6y cubed minus 3. So remember, don't move the 6 into a cube. Just change the x into y. All right, we're going to solve that for the y. So we're going to start out by adding 3 to both sides. So look, we get an x plus 3 on the left side. That's going to equal this 6y cubed. And we still need to do more work. We need that y cubed sitting there with a 1 in front. So we're going to divide both sides by 6. So y'all, this side is the x plus 3 over 6. That's now going to equal my y cubed. And remember, to undo exponents, we do cube roots. So the cube root of x plus 3 over 6 equals the cube root of y third. Hey, well, let's see. We can't do nothing with that. So we're ending up with a cube root, x plus 3 over 6. And then remember, the cube root of y cubed is a y. And then let me see. And then they write it with that F inverse notation. But it's just going to be what? The cube root of the x plus 3 over 6. Now remember, all of this is up under that radical, okay? They're going to vary the answers. You got to have the one where everything is up underneath it, okay?
Did I see the top of the paper again?
Mhm.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so y'all just be careful on that when you use those let's see, 21. So match the function with a graph. Now this one, f of x equals 3 to the x plus 1. Now what's nice is we don't actually have to graph it in MATLAB. They're going to have 4 pictures. Okay? But remember, these exponential graphs, they sort of go uphill left to right, okay? So let's go graph that and see what we get. And remember, that plus 1 is going to move it up. So let's graph it and see what we get. I'm going to clear the history over here. All right, so I had 3 to the x. So 3 exponent x, and then arrow back down and put in a plus 1. Now their graph goes from negative 12 to 12, so it'll be pretty close to what we got. So I'm just going to hit graph without messing with my window. And y'all look at that. It's above the x-axis, because remember that plus 1 shifted the whole graph up. And then it's crossing at 2 on the y-axis now instead of 1. So it sort of shifted it up a little bit, okay? So you'll pick the graph where it goes uphill left to right, and it shifted up. So that was not too bad to tell, okay? All right, 22, convert to a logarithmic equation. So these last few questions are coming from that test 4 y'all just did, okay? So e to the 5 equals 148.3362. So remember, if it's going to look like a logarithmic equation, I got to write my log. So the base of this log is the base of the exponential, so that'll be an e. Then the result is the result. So 148.3362, and that'll equal the exponent of a 5. Now, y'all, the only thing they do on their answers is they put the 5 first, and then they do the log e 148.3362. So they just start with the exponent first and then the log stuff, okay? So either way, MATLAB just, for this test on the questions to get multiple choice, it had to go in that order. All right, y'all, watch this. 23. Express in terms of sums and differences. of logarithms. So they're saying sums and differences, so you better have both in it, okay? So I got a log base b of a square root x3 y squared over z to the fifth. So the first thing I do to this is I change it from a radical. So this x3 y squared over z to the fifth, I'm going to change the radical into a fraction. So remember, square roots we write as a 1/2. Okay. So all of y'all should be a 1/2 on the radical because it's going to be a square root. So then I distribute the 1/2 to all three of them. So I get a x to the 3/2, y to the 2/2. But remember, 2/2 equals 1. So technically, if you want to put a 1 there for now, you can. And then 5 times 1/2 gives me a z to the 5/2.
And where did you get 1/2 again?
Because remember, this is a square root radical.
Mm-hmm.
So since it's a square root, we assume it's got a 2 there, okay?
Okay.
And then when you write these as fractions, it's always 1 over whatever that index is.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so now remember, if it's on top, it's added. If it's on bottom, we subtract. So I get a log b x to the 3/2 plus log b of y minus the log b of the z to the 5/2. All right, y'all, so they're written as sums and differences. I may need one more step, though. So since y'all just done this test, what's my last step? Uh-oh. Y'all see what I got to do, remember? Got to bring them exponents down to the front. So I get a 3/2 log b of x. Plus, well, log b of y didn't have an exponent other than a 1, so that don't mess with us. And then minus this 5/2 log b of z. Okay, so looks like on the answer blank, they brought all the exponents down anyway. So you just want the one that matches your answers. But y'all be careful, because let me show you. This answer has multiplication in it. So scratch it out, because you don't write them as multiplication. Okay, you want the one that's got the 3/2 log b plus the log b of y minus the 5/2 log b of z. Look up here. They got signs wrong on this one. This one, they didn't put the 5/2 here, and somehow they got a 2 there. This one, they're being multiplied. So, okay, so be careful on those. They get hard to find some of them details they're doing to them, okay? All right, so the number of acres in a landfill is given by this formula. B equals 5,700 E to the negative 0.03 T. So this was like the test y'all just did. They want to know how many acres after 9 years. So we're just going to put a 9 in for the T and see what we get, okay? So y'all, let's see. Let's go to our calculator. So I had 5,700, so let me get off this graphing. So 5,700 times my E with an exponent. So I'm going to hit second ln to get the E. So negative 0.03 times my T, which was 9 years. And I'm rounding it to the nearest acre. So no decimals. So it looks like 4,351. And I'm going to keep that a 1 because the 2 is less than a 5. So y'all, 4,351 acres. So that's all you're doing on that number 24. You're just plugging in for that T and solving it and then seeing what you get, okay? Now it's a landfill, so that has to go down, okay? All right, y'all, let me see what we got next. Oh, this is the last one because there's only 25 on this. So 25 says solve. They're giving me 2 to the 12 minus 2x equals 64. So y'all, on this one, we're going to be able to rewrite your number using the same basis they're giving you. So I'm going to bring down my 2 to the 12 minus 2x. That's going to equal 2 to the 6th power. 2 times itself 6 times equals 64. So you're going to rewrite them using the same base. Then, since the bases match, that means the exponents have to be equal. So at that point, your 12 minus 2x has got to equal that exponent of a 6. All right, so now we just solve for the x. So we're going to subtract 12. I get my negative 2x. What's that? A negative 6. And y'all divide both sides by negative 2. So those cancel and x. Ooh, the negatives cancel. So that's going to be what? A positive 3. Okay, so what's nice about this test is it is multiple choice, just like the review. So if you can knock out that review, get a good grade on it, you know you're going to get a good grade on my final, okay? So here's the thing. Final exam. I had it due like Thursday or Friday, but I had a few people that worked during the week. So the final exam is due Sunday night. Okay? That's like May the 12th, I think. But y'all listen to me. After May 12th, Math Lab is going to shut down and you won't have access to anything. So make sure you get that final in by Sunday night, okay? And it is open now. So the final exam's open today. So some of y'all still got to do test 4. Knock that out. Don't worry, because this ain't due till, like I said, the 12th. So get your test 4 in if you ain't done it, and then play with that final, okay? Now, you will not send me no work on the final. Okay?
So on test 4, did we supposed to send you anything?
Yeah, and I had them down. I think on test 4 it was like 16, 17, 18, and 22.
16, 17, 18, and 22?
Yeah.
Okay. Is this our last class?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So y'all have made it to college algebra. And y'all remember, this final exam score, if the final exam is higher than your lowest test grade, I'm going to replace the lowest test grade with the same score as you made on the final. So if you bombed one of my tests, you did good on the final, that test will have the same score as your final, okay? And then I will drop the 2 lowest homework grades, okay? So those grades will jump a little bit at the end of this class. Once y'all take the final and I get in there and I can drop scores and replace tests with final scores and stuff. So your score should go up pretty decent after the final.
So, in your class, all your reviews, are those quizzes?
The 4 test reviews and the final exam review, yeah, those counted as test grades.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And
All right.
are we meeting on Wednesday? We're not meeting on Wednesday.
It's our last day.
Right, so Wednesday we do have class Wednesday.
Do what now?
We do have class Wednesday?
No,
No, okay.
no. Once finals start, our classes are pretty much done.